I've had 2 years to let this marinate, and now guess what? I'm officially annoyed.
I hate to break it to you, but I'm gonna.
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I like to talk about entertainment media. Today, once again, I'm going to be talking about Netflix's Bridgerton, the much beloved, highly discussed series, but more specifically, I want to talk about the part of Kate Sharma's story that was not done well in season 2. So it was requested in the comments of my previous Bridgerton video that I show Kimiko more often, which I'm more than happy to do, because editing videos feels like much less of a chore if I have footage of her to work with. But I wanted to also share that whenever this channel hits 30k subscribers, I will get Kimiko a new shirt and I will show it off to you, the audience. Before we dig into more specifics about this video topic, a couple of disclaimers. No book spoilers in the comments, please, unless it's from books 1 and 2. I know if you're not new to my channel, you've heard me say this time and time again, but I look at my analytics and there are always new people coming in to view and subscribe for the first time whenever I post a new Bridgerton video, so I have to let those people know that I have this disclaimer. Additionally, donation links will be in the description box to support Palestinian people, organizations, causes, and so on and so forth. Kate Sharma is iconic. We know this. That's not news. Bridgerton season 2 came out about 2 years ago at this point, and I remember when I first started posting about Bridgerton here on my YouTube channel, there were a few stragglers that were less than favorable in their feedback about season 2. Some of the critiques I didn't necessarily agree with, some of them felt like needless nitpicking, but one talking point I've had an entire journey on has to do with the notion of Kate Sharma being sidelined in her own season. When this idea was first brought up in my comments, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I was just so deeply immersed in how electrifying the chemistry was. Jonathan Bailey and Simone Ashley threw anything and everything at us, the audience. They were and are such a power couple on screen, and I still find them to be completely iconic. I did read the book after watching my press screeners, so I was aware of the fact that certain things had been altered and certain things had been removed in the adaptation process, but what you have to understand is, watching Bridgerton season 2 was like an entire awakening for me, where I decided to more fully immerse myself back into my roots as a viewer. That was what jump-started me pushing for more new rom-coms and romantic fiction, the fun kind. So you might be wondering what exactly has made me circle back to this topic of Kate Sharma being sidelined. Well, over on my Patreon, we've been doing watch parties using Teleparty, which I personally use as a Chrome extension, and then people who also have Netflix can watch the same things as they talk about it together in a chat. Sometimes we watch films, but we've also been doing a Bridgerton rewatch to count down to season 3 premiering after all this wait. Right now we're still finishing up with season 1. I don't watch season 1 as much as I do season 2. Usually if I'm rewatching season 1, it's to take notes for a video that I'm working on for my channel, the Simon Daphne video, the gargantuan Benedict Bridgerton video essay, the Edwina Marina video, and so on and so forth. In doing this rewatch, where I've been more free to simply watch the show as opposed to being extremely dialed in and fixate on specific details pertinent to whatever thesis is occupying my brain at that moment in time, I was really taken aback by how much more fleshed out Simon's material was in season 1 compared to Kate's in season 2. The show is called Bridgerton, so first and foremost, the Bridgerton family is the central focus. Each season has a different Bridgerton child, finding their endgame love interest, falling in love, and getting married. In season 1, it was Daphne Bridgerton, and in season 2, it was Anthony Bridgerton. With each love story, there is a main character that is external to the Bridgerton family. In season 1, that was Simon Bassett, and in season 2, that was Kate Sharma. Both of these characters were not introduced until the season that they were starring in. Simon has only appeared in season 1, and Kate did not appear in season 1, but was introduced in season 2. So you, as the audience, you get their entire character introduction at the same time that you are watching their ultimate endgame love story. You have to fit in the character introduction, the character exploration, the character backstory, the love story, and some sort of transformative character arc, all in just one season. Before I start digging into more specifics, I want to make a few points very clear. I do not in any way condone sending hate to any of the actors on the Bridgerton show that are simply doing the material that they are given to play, nor do I condone sending any hate to people that work on the show in a screenwriting capacity, regardless of how I might personally disagree with certain choices that were made. Bridgerton is an enormous show with an enormous, passionate fan base, and all of us are free to like or dislike certain aspects of the material, but a lot of people are too quick to spew their animosity towards people that have done nothing to warrant that. If you want to give someone a hard time, how about the corporate bigwigs that are not paying Korean actors on Netflix K-dramas residuals, or the corporate bigwigs that greenlight too many things underfund those projects and then are trigger happy about canceling almost every original series on their platform. I'm just saying, these people are the ones who live in mansions, and then they're out here playing in our faces. Simon Bassett was treated like the leading man in season 1. Because he was the leading man of season 1. We had flashbacks to see glimpses of both of his parents. We had a child actor playing him as a child so that we could see the relationship dynamics he experienced that shaped him as a person. His father was incredibly cruel and dismissive of him because of his stutter, whereas Lady Danbury accepted him, coached him, gave him the guidance and mentorship he needed to become a more confident and secure person. However, the emotional and psychological scars were not so easily mended regardless of how fabulous Lady Danbury is, and the considerable amount of labor she put into helping Simon when his father would not. So he has this whole vengeance quest that he declares on his father's deathbed.
I will never marry. I will never sire an heir. The Hastings line will die with me.
All of this is essential to understanding Simon as a character and how his experiences contribute to the rift in his relationship with Daphne that the two of them then have to overcome. You also get these glimpses of that backstory in present day where he will stumble over his words when he's extremely stressed out. He doesn't usually stutter anymore, but in those moments where he's emotionally heightened in a negative way, that's when he's most vulnerable to potentially stuttering again. And he really doesn't want to do that because of how much torment he experienced as a child, specifically for that stutter.
Whatever is bothering you?
Nothing at all, Lady Danbury.
Kate Sharma, on the other hand, we don't see a single flashback scene for her of anything she has ever experienced before the timeline of season 2. We don't see a child actress playing her. We don't see either of her birth parents. We learn very little about her beyond what can be conveyed verbally to explain backstory. You know what that's giving? Tell, not show. And that is not how you do filmmaking. The well-known phrase of how to do storytelling in filmmaking is show, don't tell. Show me who she is. Show me where she came from. Show me the formative experiences that have shaped her into who she is now. Those experiences should be ones that shape her portion of the conflicts in her relationship with Anthony. When Anthony wanted to call off the wedding with Edwina, she's the one who kept pushing him to stay engaged, go through with the marriage, and he agreed to do that because he was already so in love with her, and he was a helpless simp for her, and that's why we love him. When season 2 came out, I was willing to give it a bit more grace because the industry was still very much dealing with trying to figure out how to get productions going again with making new health and safety accommodations related to the pandemic. I assumed that those accommodations were going to impact the budget in ways that were not in play while the show was filming season 1. But rewatching season 1 again with my patrons, no. I'm no longer willing to give it as much grace as I once did. Do you know why? Because of the insufferable Featherington family subplot about the mines in season 2. No one cares about these mines. No one asked for these mines. You should have left those mines in the garbage. Keep it in the drafts. Don't launch it into production. We don't want them. We didn't ask for them. Do you know how many times I've had people comment on videos or send some other online correspondence to me on any number of social media platforms saying that they always fast forward through those scenes when they rewatch season 2? It's an alarming amount. It was a bad idea, and it never should have happened. Now, I'm not saying that Penelope shouldn't have a plot. I think all of the main characters should have their own little arcs in the seasons they appear in. The main Bridgerton kids that are within the next few seasons of potentially getting to be the main character, absolutely, give them an arc. People like Benedict and Eloise. But the balance needs to be fair and consistent. Whomever is the star of that season, you and your love interest should have the most airtime. It's your turn, and for that season, you should be treated like it's your turn. If you are next up on the list, you should probably have some sort of arc that makes sense as a prelude to your love story. Season 1, Anthony's arc ends with him realizing that he needs to stop the nonsense and find a wife, which is exactly where we see him begin his turn as the main character in season 2. In season 2, we see Colin and Penelope have a new rift where Penelope has to realize, okay, I'm done with this clown. Let me get serious and find a husband because Mr. No Thought's head empty over here. He spoke ill on my name in front of eligible bachelors. My family's broke. There is no safety net for me. I need to save myself because no one else is going to do it. You could have and should have cut down significantly on the airtime of Portia and What's-His-Face, and yes, I called him What's-His-Face. I'm not even going to give him the satisfaction of referring to him by his name, because I'm annoyed by his presence and the amount of airtime he got. There was no justifiable reason for these evil people to suck up this much airtime as they did. Remember that in season 1, Penelope's father had a gambling problem, and this launched the family's financial woes into the forefront of that part of the Bridgerton universe. But how much airtime did that monopolize? It wasn't that much. You think of season 1 and you don't groan with irritation over them hammering that talking point to death. You think about the highs and lows of Daphne and Simon's relationship because it was their season. I've not made any attempts to keep it a secret that I'm a Benedict girly. He's my favorite. I want to see his season, and I have a lot of fun watching his bits of story that appear throughout season 1 and 2, and I always want to watch more. But if I put my personal feelings aside and I speak purely from an analytical perspective, Benedict is receiving a fair amount of screen time. He always has an arc. We get to see his relationship dynamics with different members of his family. We see him have some flings. We see him experience highs and lows with his art. We get a clear sense of who he is, where he's at in his life, and we are well primed to watch him be the main character once we get to his turn. Kate Sharma, if you've not read the book, had more material related to her backstory involving her birth parents and the deaths of both her birth mother and birth father. Her experiences with those losses inform who she is, and there was a lot more to that scene in the library in the book. She has a panic attack, Anthony comforts her, and if they had delved more into that material on the show, it would have been a really cool full circle moment. We were just coming off of the bee scene where Anthony had a panic attack because he saw his father die from an allergy to bee stings. Kate comforted him because, like Anthony, she's the oldest sibling who is very caught up in taking care of the family more than she takes care of herself. If Kate had been allowed to dive more into her fear of thunderstorms, Anthony could have reciprocated. He could have helped her through a panic attack just like she helped him. In the show, Anthony tells Kate about how his father passed away because of a bee. If they had not glossed over Kate's backstory, that scene could have carried on a bit longer, and she could have responded to learning about Anthony's father by sharing about her past, why she's afraid of thunderstorms, and it would have made them grow closer. They would have almost kissed, just like we saw them do in the show as it was made, and then Kate would run off again because of how deeply she cares for her family and how much she wants to help Edwina secure a marriage, all of that. So it's not even that you cut anything out, you just elaborate on it.
Oh, this is not...
It's all right. It's
No.
all right.
I shall bid you good night.
Make the scene longer and just fill in more of those details. I think it's also wild that you have a show that goes out of its way to make ethnic and cultural diversity a selling point to the audience and the passionate fan base in particular. But then, when you finally let some Asians be the main characters of that particular season, you made them secondary to an evil white woman who physically assaulted the black pregnant girl that she was supposed to be caring for in season 1.
Did you think I wanted to come here? To be around people like you, so out of touch, so superior.
Really? I would simply like for the show to make up its mind. Is this show a fantastical, escapist romance series where all the different ethnicities and cultures have the same opportunity to marry into a generationally wealthy white family of landlords? Or are we as the audience going to be subjected to hypocritical choices about which characters are deemed worthy of character exploration and development and which ones are not prioritized, even though it's their turn? Just let me know which one you're going to do so that I can manage my expectations accordingly when we have a new season set to come out. We got to see Simon's evil father terrorize him a whole lot in season 1 because it was context. They gave that actor so much to do, even though those are just flashback scenes. They're fairly short, but they're efficiently written, acted, and edited together, so you're not needlessly going on and on where we have to sit in that misery for too long. But we see enough of it so that we understand Simon's pain. We need to see enough of that so we can understand why he's so bad as an adult at communicating with Daphne and why he's so determined to hold on to this grudge in order to not have children. Meanwhile, we see neither of Kate's birth parents, and the one parent that is still alive, Mary Sharma, she's barely given anything to do, and that's a waste of a perfectly excellent actress. If any of you watched Shelley Khan on Gen V, oh, you know I was livid when I saw how fantastic she was on that show, because Bridgerton season 2 completely wasted her. They did nothing with her. They gave her the tiniest amount of material to play. Maybe she had one good monologue when she has that heart-to-heart scene with Kate, but We just needed to see so much more of her than we got. If you feel like we need to see some stuff related to Portia to understand Penelope and how Penelope will be set up to be the main character of season 3, I disagree because it was excessive. We already had a ton of information about Portia in season 1. You could have trimmed that entire money problem storyline down considerably in season 2 because we already know this information. Even the notion of the Featherington male heir, whatever his title is, the tension of will they, won't they between him and Portia, none of that was necessary. I don't want it. I didn't need it. Return it to the kitchen. I didn't order it, and I'm never going to order it.
I mean, that's nasty.
I sincerely hope that season 3 will pick up the slack for all the ways that we were deprived of deeper exploration of Kate in season 2, even more so since I'm assuming that both Jonathan and Simone are eventually going to become too booked and busy to keep coming back to the show in future seasons. I don't want to keep either of these performers trapped in the show if their careers are taking off and they're being offered a bunch of interesting new projects that they want to explore creatively and professionally. So this video was basically a very loud, intrusive thought that I wanted to purge from my brain, and the easiest way for me to do that when it comes to Bridgerton specifically is to just make a video about whatever the issue is. Once I've made the video, it's like a cleanse where I no longer have to think about that because I've said it and I can move on to other trains of thought about the show or any other thing I would like to talk about for my YouTube channel. I will once again reiterate, do not send any negativity to any of the actors on the show or any of the screenwriters. They are all people who are just trying to do their jobs to the best of their abilities, and I would reckon that they're all underpaid. Have you seen some of these residual checks that actors were showing that were specifically for work that was made available to stream on streaming platforms? An actual nightmare. Nightmare fuel. Pay your workers. See you in the next Bridgerton video, which will probably be significantly more cheerful in tone than this one was, unless new promo is released, in which case we will of course talk about whatever that is before we circle back to another analytical topic, be it about Bridgerton or anything else. Bye.